When I was slogging my way through the 1,200 pages of The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, the biggest surprise for me was the discovery that Martin Luther was an anti-Semite, and a virulent one at that. This was so well known in Germany that the Nazis based not only their beliefs on his teachings, but also, shall I say, their very aggressive policies. This was, to say the least, news to me, so much so that I decided I would look into it when I had the time. Luther's religious conversion, if true, was dramatic. His father wanted him to be a lawyer, so he was in law school when he got caught out in a storm and a lightning bolt struck nearby. Luther was terrified and vowed to give his life to God if he could survive. He did not die, and to his father's consternation kept his vow. For him there was no question about it. The practice of the law was far too limited compared to the majesty of the religious life, giving yourself to God, the highest calling. He entered a monastery and was ordained a priest. He was a devout Catholic, but he did not agree with every church practice. One he especially denounced was the selling of indulgences, in which a person could purchase their salvation in an official church-sanctioned sale. Luther wrote a tract against this practice known as the 95 Theses. He insisted that not only could a person not buy salvation, but also that good works, including acts of charity, had nothing to do with it either. Only God could save a soul, and it was faith in that God and that God alone that led to salvation. It's not known if Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door, but his tract was one of the first to be widely circulated because of the printing press. It gained a great deal of attention and it angered the authorities, who had an enormous practical stake in the matter. He was brought to a trial and ordered to recant. He refused, said it was impossible to deny the truth. The Pope at the time declared him a heretic and excommunicated him out of the Catholic Church, and the head of the Holy Roman Empire declared him a criminal and called for his arrest. Luther went into hiding and continued to publish his thoughts, gained quite a following. He had not intended to start a new religion, but that's what happened. Today there are about 80 million Lutherans and 800 million Protestants. Luther married and had a family, establishing that as a norm for the clergy of his religion. As for the Jews, early in his career, Luther called for them to be converted to Christianity. When that did not happen, he began to be increasingly hostile towards the Jewish religion. Apologists for Luther blame his vehemence on his failing health near the end of his life, but it is true that Luther wrote several pieces which were stridently anti-Semitic, rants on the order of anything from Adolf Hitler. He called for the destruction of synagogues and even the private residences of the Jews. Their material possessions were to be appropriated, and they were to be driven away, by force if necessary. Eventually, if they could not be converted to the one true belief, then they might as well be killed, for they were wrong and treacherous. Luther believed that religion was a matter of faith, not reason. Reason, in fact, could very well be an enemy of faith. Another of Luther's religious beliefs was that a fart was a way of driving away the devil. Get thee behind me, Satan, in effect. So if Martin Luther broke wind at a public gathering, it was not a case of bad manners. It was merely part of his catechism, a very emphatic and earthy way of dispatching the demons. What to make of all of this? I think it's best to keep religious belief down to a personal level. There is no way that I want 80 million people seeking the destruction of millions of others, and the thought of those righteous 80 million farting in earnest to keep Beelzebub at bay provides me with more of a smile than a feeling of overwhelming grace. It is strange, after all, puzzling, and sometimes downright dangerous, where devout religious belief can lead a person.